Hello again. I'm Jason, and I am really excited to have you here in my kitchen again. And so after my last video, I've had multiple people approach me and say, hey, could you make some more? And folks who know me, folks who know my family, know my wife, know that we do Chinese dumplings all the time. And it was something I used to think that was really daunting. And then my wife's family taught me their family secret, their family recipe, so to speak. And so ever since then, that was nearly 20 years ago, I've now been making dumplings with my wife multiple times a month, sometimes once or twice a week, depending on the time of the year and what we're doing. It's a family affair. And so I wanted to share with you the way we make dumplings because I've had a lot of people that over the years we've shown how to do it, and I think it will be very beneficial for folks who maybe are at home or just want to know how to make Chinese dumplings. So stay tuned, here we go. We're going to make everything from the filling to the actual wrappers or the skins all the way to the actual dipping sauce. So I'm going to tell you all about that, even different ways you can cook it. So stay tuned, I know you're going to love this. Okay guys, here I am. I've got the beginnings of our filling. So this time we're going to make a ground beef, carrot, and green onion mixture. Okay, so I have about a pound or 500 grams of ground beef here. Now you can see by the color that the ground beef is got a pretty low fat content, and so I'll explain later how we compensate for that while it cooks inside the dumpling. Okay, so what I've done is I've already prepared this. I then also shredded or grated a carrot, so a large carrot. Okay, so we're going to just dump that straight in. And so the carrot can be, you can put more or less in there. You could use zucchini. You could use any kind of root vegetable like that you like. I've even seen things like cauliflower and other kinds of things in here. But carrot's what we like. It kind of complements the beef quite a bit. Okay. I've also taken a few stalks of green onions, and I've chopped those up. You might call them, they're not really chives, they're a little bit bigger than that, okay? So I'm gonna dump those in. So actually, that's it for the actual ingredients. All the rest are seasonings and such. So I'm just gonna mix this in here together, okay? And you wanna make sure it gets pretty evenly mixed so that there's an equal proportion or ratio of vegetables to meat, okay? Now, obviously, you could substitute all kinds of things here. Very often, people who have had our dumplings have had the one that we use ground pork and chopped up prawns or shrimp, okay? And that uses a different vegetable then because of what it complements. We use like a really thin Chinese chives or leek. Okay, and as you can see, things are starting to mix together. All right, and so I'm just going to keep on shredding this up. I will tell you that our sons love this recipe. They will eat this all day long. We often will also make egg dumplings for them. So we'll just scramble up eggs till they're about 30 or 40% cooked. So they're still a little runny. And then we actually will just put those into the dumpling skins and cook those or steam those as well. So okay, I've got everything kind of mixed here together. So now what I'm going to do, this is what I was talking about with the fat content. I'm going to use 1/3 cup of oil. So I'm going to put that in here like this. You don't have to usually use that much, but we're using that much because the beef content of fat is quite low. So I need some fat that's going to cook the meat when it's being boiled or steamed or fried. Okay, you don't want it to be too dry, so you got to put in some oil for that. As you can see, it's starting to get just a little bit more of a smoother consistency. Okay, we're going to then put in a teaspoon or so of salt. Okay, so I'm going to spread that around. Now that's something that you don't put the salt in until the end when you're doing the pork dumplings because the leek tend to get real watery once the salt hits them, so we don't want it too watery. But in this recipe, it's okay to put the salt in ahead of time. Now, I'm going to use oyster sauce. This is an oyster sauce that's available in most countries. So this is a oyster sauce. I believe it's out of Hong Kong, but it's the Lee Kum Kee. It's the Panda brand oyster sauce. I believe you can find that pretty much anywhere in your supermarket. And we're just going to put in probably what would equal about a tablespoon and a bit. Okay, so there you go. About a tablespoon a bit. You can always add more. You can never take it out, right? So you want to mix that in as well. So remember, we're just making our filling at the moment. Now here comes the secret ingredient. And this is going to be a little bit harder for people to get. So what you're going to want to do is find a substitution for this, okay? And we're going to use this really, really special dumpling seasoning. You can see the dumpling here on the front, okay? From what I've found, I can only buy this in China. So what we use instead, when we're not in China, actually when we go to China, we just buy a bunch of these, but when we're not in China, we use 5-spice or allspice. So it's really kind of up to you. You don't want it to be too cinnamony, too much cinnamon. Okay, I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of that seasoning in, okay, and mix that around as well. Okay, so mixing this, oh boy, I can start to smell it now. This is fantastic. I cannot wait. And then if you'll notice, our mixture here has become quite smooth and consistent, okay? That's what we want, because later on when I'll show you how we spoon these into the dumplings, okay? I'm just going to kind of flatten this out while it's starting to let the seasonings marry and all the flavors come together, okay? I'm going to cover this and I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for about an hour just so that the stuff. So I have chopped up some garlic. You can go as fine or as coarse as you want that to be. Okay, I used 5 small cloves on this one, or the bulbs, the small ones. Okay, and so I chopped that up into bits. And so this is for the dipping sauce, and all we're going to do is I'm going to take this right here, which if you look here at the bottom, it's sesame oil. Okay, and sesame oil goes a long way, so just a few little bits there. Okay, you can see, pour it in like that. It's probably equivalent to about a half a teaspoon. Okay, and then I'm just going to add in the soy sauce, and I'm just going to kind of run around this way a little bit, and then I'm going to stop. I don't want to fill it all the way up. I want it to be just high enough to soak the garlic cloves. Okay, so I'm just going to stir that in like that, and this is going to be our dipping sauce. You can always add more of both of those sauces, but this is how we get started. We'll set this aside and let it soak while we're preparing the dumplings. Okay, so here we go. We've got the dough. We're beginning to make the dough. So there's enough flour to basically match the amount of filling that we've made. So as you can see here, my lovely wife has started to stir in just water. So it's just basic all-purpose flour with water, okay? We're not using self-rising flour, we're just using standard noodle or dumpling skin flour. So if you're buying flour in the US, it's just the regular standard all-purpose flour, okay? And so she's going to keep stirring this until it gets to a kind of sticky, doughy consistency, okay? And what's incredibly important here is that we don't want it to be too soft, so we're going to set it aside once we're done. So with dough, if anyone is used to making dough, you'll know that it's not an exact science necessarily. You have to kind of keep working with it depending on how much you want to have and that sort of thing. Okay, so right here, we're just going to get the dough out of the bowl and do a bit of kneading. Okay, and so right here, you can see she's beginning to knead, and then is going to put it straight into the flour to where it can be kneaded. Okay. All right, you can see we're putting a little flour in the bottom of the bowl so that we can put the dough to rest. So that is just water and flour. Awesome. All right, folks, so we have just finished our first batch. They're in the steamer. Ooh, that's sliding around. Okay, so they're in there in the steamer. We have a 3-leveled steamer, and we like to have the dumplings steamed. You can boil them, and you can also deep fry them if you really wanted to. I will say that one thing I failed to mention earlier was that you don't have to make the skin from scratch. You can actually buy them in the supermarket. You can make them out of tofu, you can make them out of flour, they can be made out of all kinds of things. And so we're gonna steam this until after it's been boiling. I would say it steams for about 10 minutes. But you wanna always look and see that you can start to see through the flour skin and start to see that the meat is changing color. Also, the green onions will be a little darker, and that's one way you'll know that they're finished. But you can always try one out. Okay, folks. Here's the final result. A whole plate full of dumplings. 10 minutes after we started steaming, you can see how the different colors changed on the skin. You can start to see through it, and you can see that the green onions are darker. So it's really fantastic. It tastes yummy. The whole family enjoys it. So I hope that your family enjoys it as much as my family does.